Granada, definitely the main attraction is the Alhambra and the complex. So some practical information. This is the second most touristed site in Europe, next to Rome. So I didn't know that. I was just informed about the Alhambra when we were in San Sebastian, and our hostess said, "Oh, you must go see the Alhambra." So anyway, that's how I found out about it. And so that said, it is very important to have pre-purchased tickets. If you can do it months in advance, and you know that you're going to be there at a certain time, you go to the official site and buy those tickets. Now, if you are like me and you just happen to be in Granada and you say, "Oh, I want tickets," well, they're very, very difficult to get. However, here's the trick, and this is important. This is the actual site. So this is the official site. Make sure you go there. Don't go. There's a bunch of other sites that say we're the official site. The tickets should cost about 15 euros. Period. I mean, that's it. Most of the sites you're going to look at, they're going to say they're official sites, but they're not, and they're trying to sell you on a tour. Now, one other trick. So let's say you are in Granada and you did not purchase your ticket. So what you can do is you can, the night before, let's say you're there and you want to go on Wednesday, well, Tuesday night, 12 o'clock, midnight, you go to that website that you just saw, and you put your information in, and you keep going, you keep doing it, you have one or two devices, and you try to break through to get through the information, because you're going to have a lot of people doing the same thing. That's how I got my tickets, and I got them, I think it's for 8 o'clock or 7:30 in the morning the following morning. So that is the trick on how you can get tickets if you're lucky. So anyway, let's move on. So another thing that I found, so let's say you've got a ticket and it says you got to get there at 9 o'clock, 9 a.m. You've got to be there at that hour. They'll only let you in if you got a 9 o'clock ticket. You have to go in at 9 o'clock. If it's a 10 o'clock ticket, you can only go in at 10 o'clock. And if you get there and you got a 9 o'clock ticket and it's 9:30, they won't let you in. So trust me, all of that said, I definitely like the fact that the tickets are only $15. You don't have a bunch of people scalping. I think the way they've got the thing set up, it's set up in such a way that the person who purchased the ticket has to be the person that uses it, because it has to go on your phone. So those were good pieces of information, kind of important. So keep all that in mind. Also, because you are going with usually a pretty big group, there was at least maybe close to 100 people, maybe 50 people in our group. So when you first enter into the complex, after the entry, you can have a lot of people sitting there, and they tend to just congregate. So I found it more useful to walk to 3 or 4 different rooms ahead of my group and then work my way back. Now, that said, you have to also be careful, because there is going to be another group, and I think they have them clocked in at every 30-minute intervals. So even though I walked ahead of my group and worked my way back, I had to make sure that I got out of there before the next group started going in. And I think the time frame is about 30 minutes. So you notice that I've gone ahead of my group, and you see a whole lot less people. I also believe that they give you, and it's no extra charge, a headset, maybe it is an extra charge, I don't remember, of listening to an audio, a self-guided audio. And if you're really that type of a person, I would take the self-guided audio. Now, what I do not like about it, there is so much to see that you're listening to these words, and it's really hard to concentrate on the visual and get the impact of the complex. And so I just had to shut the thing off and gave up on it and just walked around and watched it. Also, the other problem with that self-guided tour is that it forces you to stay in sequence by rooms, and so you can't go ahead and you can't go back, and if you got the wrong place, you're hearing the wrong thing. So I say, don't take the tours, and don't take the self-guided tour. Just go and enjoy it. Just walk around, look at all this stuff. Now, interestingly also, another piece of information I found was rather interesting. You may find an old photograph of the Alhambra, like from the 1800s, and it's completely blown out. I mean, I think Napoleon blew up large portions of this. It's been vandalized, I mean, over hundreds of years. So I think an awful lot of what you're seeing is a recreation of a lot of it. And that is extremely admirable. So now there you see Arabic writing. And so in the upper parts of this plaster, you're going to see writing, and a lot of it not only has to do with Allah, but a lot of it is actually poetry from Islamic poet. But you just have to marvel at the craftsmanship, without a doubt. I mean, it is spectacular. Gives you some dioramas and some explanations. And it's a fairly large complex. I mean, this is an all-day adventure, so don't pressurize yourself and try to do too much. Just to do the Alhambra, the Generalife, and the Alcazaba is an all-day adventure. You don't really want to rush it. There's a lot of buildings, lots of rooms. So even though the military portion of it was, history goes to show it around the 9th century BC, I think most of what we're looking at here, the original construction was 1223, so during the 13th century. So that wasn't too long after the Reconquest. The Catholic Monarchs came into Spain and pushed out the Moors. So I'm not real clear how long it took to build this complex, because portions of it were built and then additional rooms were added. I think the last buildings, the last major buildings were the Generalife, which would have been the summer palaces. So the military portion of this would have been similar to the royal guard of the sultans. Also, Granada during the Reconquest was, in all of Spain, Granada was the last stronghold. And there was some infighting going on within this Granada area, within this region. And that's when Isabel and Ferdinand did their final push and attacked the Alhambra and took it over. Also interesting that this became Ferdinand and Isabella's palace also. This is where they met Christopher Columbus to give him, I guess, the goal to go to the New World in 1492. Interesting, huh? So this, I forgot the symbology of it, but with these four directions, there's a lot of symbology in this architecture, just like there is in any Christian churches too. And so this would have been a combination of religion to respect to Allah, and secular. So this is all the plaster work. Etched, carved plaster. I think some of the dioramas go into the details of how these are made. Because I look at these patterns and I'm making an assumption that they would have been done with patterns, like a mold, if you will. Look at this tremendous craftsmanship. So the Alhambra means red castle or vermilion. So because of the outside structure was made with a reddish rock, and probably more accentuated when the sun would set, it gave it a very strong red cast. Now it says that, but then I also read that the original palace sultan was Alhambra. Alhambra. Also, the gardens would have represented heaven on earth. Look at this. Look at the ceiling. This would rival any cathedral in Europe in terms of craftsmanship, the effects, the detail. And this is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Yeah, so in a lot of the inscriptions in the upper walls, you'll see poems by Ibn Zemrak. I probably didn't pronounce that correctly. Coffered ceilings out of wood. So we see combination of different materials being used. Not everything was built during the same time period. So, and also when the Christians took over, Ferdinand, they would have gone through another remodeling. I'm going to assume that this was more for the workers, like kitchen. I would say just to go through the main palace was easy 2 hours. This is the baths. So these are some of the additional buildings. Now these don't look quite the same time period. So again, that would have been a Christian church. I love that reflection. So it wasn't unusual to leave some of the architecture and just add on to it. We can assume that probably the Romans had control of this region also. Yeah, so you see these little reading rooms, these little ante rooms, like a summer reading room. Gives you a nice overview of the city. So this entire upper area would have had a wall built around it. And I think actually most of Granada itself also had a wall. So you had the Citadel up here with its own unique wall. And then the city of Granada would have had a wall built. Gardens would have represented heaven on earth. So that's why there was attention paid to the exteriors of the palace. when the more strict Islamic rulers came into this region, they saw these palaces as being garish and too concerned with material possessions, and so they destroyed most of the palaces, but this is one even they had to admire and wasn't completely destroyed. Bring a snack. Yeah, so Generalife, we want to say Generalife. Can't tell you how much I wanted to say Generalife, but architect of the garden. So that's why even in military terms, sometimes a military leader is referred to as the architect of this war, architect of that group. So they're interchangeable. General. Yeah, those little white place cards are part of that audio tour that you can take. Again, I would avoid paying for private tours. They're not really private. You have to go with the group at your time period anyway, so it's not like you're gonna be there by yourself with a small group. So this is the Citadel. So it would have been the Royal Guard. So they had their own built-in protection. I mean, no different than England with their Royal Guard. I would certainly think that it would be the elite of the elite soldiers that would be occupying this area, because a lot of the structures were also for their living quarters. Nice little view of the Sierras. I did find an old picture, I think maybe the 1800s, that showed a portion of this before it was ever remodeled, and it was like amazingly blown out. What you're looking at here is such a great reconstruction. Yeah, and be careful also that there are people that try to sell you tickets. You may be on the street and somebody says, oh, I can get you a ticket, but no, they can't. That really has to go through your phone almost to download the app or to download your time period. And also that said, so another piece of practical, if you made it this far, when you get your ticket on your phone, you still have to go to the main ticket counter and show them, and then I believe that then they print out an actual ticket for you. So be aware of that. The QR code is not the ticket to enter into the complex. You do need to you take that to the ticket counter, and then they convert that into their ticket, their piece of paper. Thanks for watching.